I am coming at you today with a sack of potatoes because it's the Thanksgiving episode. I've curated this entire menu for your Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving needs, so it would work for both occasions. I feel like Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving is notoriously known for when the chef is stressed in the kitchen and everyone else is drinking and like twerking in the living room and the chef never gets to play. That's not what's gonna happen here. I'm gonna set you up for success. I promise if you follow these guidelines, you're gonna be twerking in the living room too. This video might be kind of long because we're making a lot of things. And if you don't wanna watch the whole thing, don't worry, I'm not offended. There are bookmarks in the YouTube timeline where you can choose the recipe you want to watch. So if you just wanna watch a tutorial on mashed potatoes, click that and you can go through that entire tutorial. If you wanna make this all by yourself, that is amazing. You are a badass. I'm gonna set you up so that you can absolutely do that. But something else I wanna know is you can share this with your friends and delegate different recipes to other people so they can bring the mashed potatoes or the stuffing and make it a potluck style, which is always a lot of fun. So if you want your friends to participate, send them this video, send them the guide below, and make it a team effort. Gratitude, yeah, we love it. Let's get started. Without further ado, here is my gratitude menu from start to finish. We have a lot of stuff going on. Classic mashed potatoes, my personal favorite way to make them. Baked Brie stuffing, a Thanksgiving salad, which is very easy to make. It's a Brussels sprout salad with butternut squash, pomegranate, and a tahini dressing. Oh, it's so good. For the main event, we are not making turkey, okay? I think it's overrated. I'm sorry, you're on my channel. You gotta follow my rules. No, I personally think your guests are going to love this roasted braised chicken. Just trust me on the chicken. It's gonna blow your mind. And it's so easy and you can just let it sit in the oven until your guests are ready to eat it. That's why I chose it. And for dessert, we're making a pumpkin pie with a twist. You can either add a cranberry jam on the bottom or a salted dulce de leche on the bottom. And it's up to you. I'm gonna show you the method for either one. Are we ready to rumble? Let's go. First thing we're making can actually be done 3 weeks ahead of time. Yeah, but I personally do it a week ahead. We're making mashed potatoes, very classic style of mashed potatoes. I personally could eat a whole tub of. It starts with a sack of potatoes. I love this thing. We've set up our peeling potato station. I've got my potatoes. I have a bowl for the scraps, a pot with cold water, and a cutting board with a knife. We're gonna peel our potatoes. I like to do this while I'm watching my comfort show on Netflix. Okay, we're gonna peel them until they're nice and naked, like that. We're gonna cut our potatoes into like 8 or 10 pieces. Add to a pot of cold water, turn the heat on high, and bring it to a boil. Lots of salt. We want the salt to penetrate the potatoes and get them nice and flavorful. You're gonna let this come to a boil. So I boiled these until they are fork tender. It should almost kind of like break apart. We don't want it too mushy or mashy, but it should be soft. We gotta move kind of quickly. I have this strainer. I find it very easy to just put it on top of the potatoes and drain the whole pot. You can also pour them into a strainer because we are done with this water. Come with me. Oh shoot, I have things in the sink. Okay, we're gonna drain this. All right. Ooh, yeah. Now we're gonna do something called dry steaming, and this is a very important part of the process. So right now we are dry steaming our potatoes. I put the flame on a medium heat, and this is to get all the excess water out so we don't have mushy, sloshy potatoes. If I were not filming this, I would do this all by the stove because I have some cream and butter that I'm gonna scald and add to my potatoes after I rice them. So that's the step we're on. We're gonna rice our potatoes. There are so many different ways to mash potatoes, but I swear, buying a ricer changes the game. Your potatoes are not gluey or starchy. They become these fluffy clouds because you get a little bit of air in them when you rice them. Take the potatoes, pop them in the ricer, press the potatoes out. And we're gonna repeat this with all of our potatoes. Now it's time, we gotta work in a very timely fashion. Have your seasonings ready to go. I'm eyeballing everything because I've made these so many times. So we have the white pepper, garlic powder, and salt. Add whatever else you want, okay? And we're heating up some cream and some butter, a lot. We're gonna whisk this together. See how it's boiling? This is scalding cream and butter, and we're gonna take this right to our potatoes. Look, it's getting all hot in here. We don't want it to go over. We want it to bubble. Gonna stir it up a little bit, reduce this volume, and then we're gonna bring it over and we're gonna add this in and whisk as we go. Okay, wow, look at this. All right, so now we're gonna add our seasonings. Lots of salt to taste, garlic powder. I love white pepper. Taste for seasoning. The way I could eat this whole bowl, I'm not kidding, I could eat this whole bowl. Try not to eat all the potatoes. We're gonna put them in Ziploc bags and store them in the freezer. So to store them, I just put them in with a spoon and I'm pressing them into these like 1 to 2 inch thick layers and sealing the bag. And we're gonna put them right in the freezer. The night before you plan to make your potatoes, just put them in the fridge to thaw out and then reheat before serving. Now it's pie time. In my opinion, the pie is something you can actually just buy already done. But if you want to make it yourself, here is how to make a good old pumpkin pie. Of course, because we're making it ourselves, I want to add a fun twist. So you have 2 options here. We can either add some cranberry elements to contrast the pumpkin pie, or we can add some salted dulce de leche to just make this rich and intense. I bought a pie crust pre-made because we have enough going on. We do not need to make pie crust unless you want to. Just take a fork, just poke some holes all over the place to allow steam to release when we pre-bake it. Place some parchment paper into the pie crust like this. You can use pie weights or dried beans. I only have split peas, so that's what I'm using. We're gonna use these as our pie weights. Bake it for about 10 minutes. Canned pumpkin, 15 ounces of it. I go not seasoned. I like to season it on my own, but you can also buy the seasoned pumpkin. Add some brown sugar. I'm using dark brown sugar because I love that molassesy flavor. Don't forget the salt. Our spices, you can just buy pumpkin spice pre-made or use cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and a little bit of ginger. I add a little bit of vanilla. I'm eyeballing it. Eggs. We're just gonna whisk everything together. Now it's time for sweetened condensed milk. Mix this together. How easy, so easy. Our crust is ready. Remove the pie weights. And this is where you choose your fun, choose your adventure. Dulce de leche or cranberry sauce. I already made one with the salted dulce de leche, so I'm gonna use the cranberry sauce for this one. Kind of spread it out a little bit. Okay, pour our filling in. All right, let's bake it. You'll notice the pie kind of rises, but don't worry, because that's all gonna fall. Look at that. So here's the pie after that little bubble in the center kind of fell down. It's room temperature, and I'm gonna store it covered in the fridge. Oh my gosh, it feels perfect. Wait, I feel like she's beautiful. A little bit of a drizzle on here. We're gonna make our baked brie stuffing now. It's very simple. We're assembling a bunch of ingredients in a baking dish and we're gonna pre-bake it. So when tomorrow comes, it's already done, we're just heating it up. And while that's in the oven, we're gonna prep our mise en place for our chicken and we're gonna roast some butternut squash. I wouldn't make the pie at the same time as these because there are really strong aromatics that go into the stuffing and you wouldn't want those to impart flavor on your pie. So if I had it my way, I'd make the pie in the morning, let it set completely, put it in the fridge, and then work on all of this in the evening. We're gonna do a lot of chopping first, so get ready. First ingredient we're gonna need for our chicken and our stuffing is celery. Pinch it, bring your knife down. To dice them, you're gonna line up your pieces of celery, but like this. Beautiful. It's onion time. You're just going to have your onion, keep the root intact, trim off that first layer and the second layer, which is kind of flimsy. Take your knife, we're gonna slide it horizontally, not all the way through the end, like such, you see? Rotate it and slice vertically. We're gonna make our way down the onion and chop on down. Now we're gonna chop some garlic for the stuffing. Use the back of your knife to kind of flatten them a little bit. I'm just gonna keep it in a little bowl. So I just peeled my carrot. Cut off the nub, separate the larger part from the smaller part, cut it into halves, and similar to the celery, I know there's garlic everywhere, but like, it's fine. Cut it into quarters, set that aside, and then for the smaller piece, I just pinch it, and then I leave it in the halves. And what we're gonna do is line them all up just like the celery, and we're gonna cut these. They don't have to be perfect. First herb that we're using for the stuffing is sage. I'm just taking the leaves off of the stems, finely chop them. Okay, my sage is all ready to go. I'm gonna go with some thyme. Remove the little leaves from the sprig, and we're just gonna finely chop them. Parsley, thyme. Tear off the bottom stems, and we're gonna give this a nice fine chop. Parsley is done. Put it on our little herb tray. Finally, we're gonna pre-cube our brie. All we're doing is cutting it into like 1 inch or ½ inch cubes. It's so simple. Baguettes, baby. Every bakery makes a different size baguette. So I always just buy 2 just to be safe. These are from Costco and they're massive. We're gonna just break it up. Got to get my ingredients. It's stuffing time. Put it on medium heat. Add some chicken stock and cream cheese. We're basically just gonna make a creamy chicken stock mixture and let that heat up while we work on the rest. Half a stick of butter, bing bong. Medium heat. Onions and celery going into the pan. Just to season as we go, we're adding some salt now, and we'll also add salt later. Over here in this pot, you see our cream cheese is softening. We're just gonna whisk it to combine with our stock. In this pan, our onions and celery are sweating. We're gonna add all of our herbs, our garlic. I'm gonna mix all this together until it's nice and fragrant. More butter, woohoo! Pour this mixture into our aromatics, and we're just gonna whisk it together. I've buttered my baking dish. I've got my baguette pieces, and we're gonna take this mixture, pour this all over my bread. Look at that. Get all that bread coated. You want the bread to absorb it, but if it feels dry to you, just add some more chicken stock, some eggs that I whisked together. Just gonna pour it all over. Make sure this is fully combined. We want this to hit every piece of bread. I like mine with a little bit of mush and sturdiness, but use your instinct because texture is all up to you. I'm taking our bread and I'm gonna create our first layer. Put your cubed brie just all over the place. And now we're gonna build our second layer, top with our brie cubes. Oh my God, this recipe is so delicious. I'm getting so hyped up right now. We're gonna bake it covered with foil on a lower temperature just to let the bread kind of mesh together. Then we're gonna uncover it later. Baked brie stuffing is in the oven on the first bake at 350. So in the meantime, I'm gonna chop up a butternut squash. The butternut squash has a really thick skin, unlike me. And we're just gonna use a peeler here, but it might take a few tries. So I'm just peeling the whole thing. What I'm gonna do is cut it into pieces. I'm gonna cut the top off. There are no seeds, which I love. It makes life very easy. I'm gonna cut the middle section. Got my 3 quadrants of my squash. Gonna cut them in half. The bottom big quadrant is gonna have all the seeds, which we're gonna scoop out. Cut them into strips. Then we're gonna cut them into little French fry looking things. Line those up and just cut down. It does not have to be perfect. Pop this on a sheet pan. Some oil, some salt. Get them nice and acquainted with the salt and the oils. We're just gonna put them in the oven. Just took the baked brie stuffing out of the first bake. Check it out. This was the bake at 350. Now I'm gonna put it in the oven for its second bake where it gets a little bit crispy. And with it, I'm popping that squash in too. My squash is done. I'm gonna let it cool. My baked brie stuffing is perfect. I'm gonna let it cool down, then I'm gonna cover with foil once it comes to room temp. We're gonna keep it in the fridge until tomorrow. And that's all for today's work. We prepped our ingredients for the chicken, we prepped our ingredients for our salad, we have our stuffing, our potatoes are ready, our pie is ready, and tomorrow's gonna be such a breeze. It's the day of our party! We made it! I've got my squash that I roasted yesterday. I just pulled it from the fridge, and I already started shredding some Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna show you how to do that, and then this is the easiest thing to compile. The grocery store does sell shredded Brussels sprouts already, but if you can't find them, get the whole Brussels sprouts, choose the biggest ones you can because they're leafier and just better for this purpose. Chop the end off, chop it in half, fray the edges with our knife, and just thinly slice. Our dressing is so easy. I have Dijon mustard in a bowl. I'm adding tahini, kind of eyeballing the whole thing, but you'll get the recipe down below. I'm gonna add some pepper, sherry vinegar for acidity. We're gonna mix this up. We're gonna add a little bit of water to thin it out. We want this to have more of a dressing consistency. That's our dressing. That's so easy. Like, how easy was that? That's so, oh my God. Got a block of parm, and I'm gonna just slice it really thin because I'm gonna mix some of these slices into the salad, kind of like a Caesar. And I'm also just gonna chop some up and top with it as well. Add our parm, add our squash. I recommend just splurging and buying the pomegranate arils already taken out of the pomegranate. It makes life so much easier. Okay, we're gonna mix it together. Beautiful. So your salad's assembled. You're just gonna cover it, put it in the fridge, then dress it. And add our dressing. Oh, this is so good. And then crumble a little more parm on top. Add some more pomegranate. Because this is a really long episode, my microphone died, so bear with me with this audio while we make our chicken. We are making a braised chicken with gravy. I think this is 20 million times better than turkey. I will say it now, I will say it forever. The reasons being, turkey gets dry in the oven if it's not done correctly. When you're making a turkey, it's a labor of love. You have to baste it in its own fat. Get it nice and juicy. You have to brine it the day before. I just feel like with all the things we're doing, we don't need more stress. We need something a little easier. And I love this dish because people can tell you light or dark meat, and you can literally tailor it to what they want. So what you get are either split chicken breasts with the skin on. Whole Foods has a pack of 5, or you get chicken thighs with the skin on, bone in, or both. Because I'm not feeding 10 to 12 people tonight, I'm just gonna do this with 6 pieces of chicken, and you can double it. The whole recipe in the guide is for 10 to 12. So this entire method applies, but just with more chicken. Let's get started, let's go. We already have our mirepoix chopped. We did that yesterday, so life is easy. I also pre-measured some Dijon mustard, tomato paste, white wine, and I have chicken stock. I would get a whole carton because you might need the whole thing depending on how much chicken you're making. One final thing is braised chicken is traditionally done in one pot. It's kind of like a Dutch oven dish. You sear the chicken, add the liquid, and let it sit in the pot. Because we're cooking for a crowd, we can't fit everything into one pot. So what we're gonna do is transfer the liquid to baking dishes and put 6 chicken breasts in a dish. So you can either do 2 baking dishes or 1 large roasting pan with all of your liquid. First step, dry them off. Salt each one generously, and that's it. We're gonna take this to the stove and get the party started. You can use any pan that you have. Just go for a big pan here. We're gonna turn our heat on medium-high. Here we go. This one's nice and golden brown. I'm gonna put it on the sheet pan. You're gonna see all the golden brown bits on the bottom of the pan. That's fond, and it builds flavor, so that gravy-like flavor comes from that. We want as much of that as possible. These are finally done. I'm gonna leave these right here. And now we're gonna add the mirepoix that we chopped yesterday. We're gonna let this cook. We've sweat all of our mirepoix. It smells so fragrant. Now we're gonna add this tomato paste. We're also gonna add some Dijon mustard. This is a little bit of a spin that I'm adding. We're going to spread this out onto the bottom of the pan, kind of create like a thin layer, and we're gonna cook it. We're gonna toast it. This is gonna give us a sweet caramelized flavor. So this is what we want, that nice golden brown color on the bottom of the pan. Look at this, gorgeous. We're deglazing with white wine. And we're gonna scrape everything off the bottom. This is all the flavor. And now we're just gonna add our stock. I'm just stirring this together. This will become your gravy. It's gonna sit in the oven for so long that it's gonna just turn into this thick, sexy, chickeny mixture. And transferring this liquid over to a baking dish. Now we just assemble. We're gonna put our chicken in here. We want enough liquid to completely submerge the meat. Final step, add a thyme sprig. Say bye-bye to the chicken. I'm filming all of this in one day, so I had to swap out, but here's what it looks like when it's done. It should smell like gravy and roast chicken. You're literally going to have that in the oven. As you mingle with your guests, you're going to know it's basically slow cooking and becoming nice and juicy. You don't even have to think about it. While we work on our gravy, we're gonna cover this with foil so it stays nice and warm. First things first, strain out all the aromatics to make our gravy. So this is a whole mixture of aromatic liquid, chicken fat, chicken stock, everything we just built up, and it is probably the most flavorful liquid you will ever try. We're gonna add our flour. So it'll take like 1 to 2 minutes to get a nice nutty aroma. Moment of truth, we're gonna add our liquid gold that we worked so hard on. This is what the consistency should look like. That's thick, but not too thick. About an hour before your guests come over, I would just assemble a cheese board. So the cheeses I have, I chose 4 cheeses. I like to always play with textures. So I went with a truffle goat cheese, a French Brie. The one from Costco is so good. Do not sleep on that. An aged Gouda and an aged cheddar. When it comes to serving, I would just go family style with everything. I would go paper plates, honestly, and that's it. Down below, you can find a guide with individual recipes for everything we made today except the cheese board. That's kind of up to your discretion. And of course, send this to your friends if you want to delegate different recipes, or just send it to your friends if you like this video and the recipes that I posted about, and I hope you make it. It's so impressive, it's so fun, and when you break it up between the times that we worked on, it is so much less intimidating than you might think. If you like this video, I would be so grateful if you subscribe to my channel, throw me a like and a comment, and please, if you make this menu, tag me on Instagram, Dining with Skyler. I wanna see everything you worked on. I hope you love it as much as I do. Now I'm gonna go give this to my neighbors because I'm not having Friendsgiving today.